You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Ethan Hristodoulou.
Welcome back, everybody, to more of the Greeks Gridiron. I am Ethan Hristodoulou, and today, my Dallas Cowboys fans, I am talking to you all and how I would like to see your team, the boys, handle themselves going into this free agency period. I'm talking a player I would expect to see them let go, a player I think they must re-sign, and on top of that, a player I would like to see them go after once the free agency period officially opens up. So comment down below, let me know, who do you want to see the team let go, bring back, pick up, all that and everything in between, and let's dive right in, shall we? And if I sound a little off, I am a little bit sick right now, so bear with me here. I wanted to make sure I got some content out for you all today. Starting with the cap space situation here for the Dallas Cowboys. At the moment of me recording this, they're currently sitting at minus $7.5 million, so a little bit over the cap, but not anything too crazy. It sounds like there's going to be some restructuring going on with some of the contracts that they have out there. EzekielElliott has been brought up a handful of times, and that's somebody we're going to talk about a little bit later as well. But I definitely could see the Cowboys getting themselves underneath the cap space and opening things up for them to at least bring in not necessarily like all-star players, but guys that are going to beef up the key players that they already have here. And there's going to be a little bit of a surprise, I think, here or there going through this conversation that I'm having with you all here. And it's going to start with who I think that they should let go of, and that being cornerback Anthony Brown. This is one that I think was really unfortunate for the Cowboys defense because he was playing pretty well. Not quite his best season, I would say, so far in his career, but he was definitely playing solid. He's been a very good cornerback for the Cowboys over the years, but coming off of a torn Achilles he dealt with playing the Dallas Cowboys, the Indianapolis Colts, it's a really tough injury to come back from. Couple that with the fact that he's 29 and he'll be going on 30 as the season kicks off. I just think that there's a possibility that this is a guy that you could end up seeing walking because, one, just the price tag, and again, two, the injury. Achilles is a really tough one here. I know people are coming back from a lot of injuries, faster and better than ever before, but Achilles is still one of those injuries where there's so much that goes into the leverage that you put on your Achilles tendon, the explosiveness off the Achilles tendon. That's a long one to come back from. It just doesn't necessarily make sense for the Cowboys, in my opinion, to bring him back. And that first season back, I always feel from an Achilles is a weird one because players have to regain the trust in their in that leg when they're planting off of it. And it seems like one that's a little bit slower to recover from. ACL's another one, but that's not as egregious as I would say the Achilles is. And again, being close to 30 with the amount of money that he could potentially make, I know you might be able to get him on a slightly less expensive deal. I mean, again, he is older, injury, and you might be able to get like a 1-year prove-it type deal, but I feel like with the emergence of talent and young talent at that you have in Dallas, it kind of makes him a little bit more expendable. So, I mean, you look at just the young guys that you have there already, coupled with the fact that you have 8 picks in this year's draft class. I mean, you could focus on going after a corner in like day 2 or something like that if you don't want to spend a top end pick on it. But it just feels like there's a very large road of opportunity for the Cowboys to go down moving on from Anthony Brown. And I'm very curious to see what you Cowboys fans think on this one here because, again, he's been a really good corner for Dallas for the last handful of years, but I don't think that this past season was necessarily his best by any means. Still solid, but it wasn't his best by any means. And again, coming off such a serious injury, it feels like this is one of those things that makes sense, and you might as well just kind of move on from him at this point and see where he ends up going. Now, as for looking at who I would like to see this team re-sign, I feel like this was a no-brainer for me. This is like, you have to do this. You have to do this because at this point, he has emerged as your guy, and that's going to be running back Tony Pollard. He's going to be 26 next season. This must happen. Pollard and Zeke have been an excellent 1-2 punch over there in Dallas, but at this point, Tony Pollard feels like he has kind of overtaken EzekielElliott as the running back of this team. He is just beyond exceptional at everything he does. He had 1,378 total yards this year, 12 touchdowns, not a single fumble. Tony Pollard is the truth over there in Dallas. I'm a massive fan of him, and I almost feel like he's been kind of limited as he's progressed in Dallas because of how much money Zeke has been owed. And now that there's the conversation of Zeke potentially restructuring his contract to open things up and open up the cap space, it's very clear that Dallas can't move forward with Zeke being paid as much as he has. And on top of that, ignoring the fact that Tony Pollard has really turned into almost the guy that I would say that EzekielElliott is supposed to be. And don't get me wrong, Zeke's talented and he plays really well. Like I said, they're a fantastic 1-2 punch between him and Zeke. Him and Pollard. You're looking at over 2,100 yards of total offense or something like that alone, or 22. I forget what the number is off the top of my head, but I mean, together combined, they're phenomenal. It's just at this point, Tony Pollard really feels like he's becoming the running back you wanted from Zeke. And if you are to just let Pollard go, I know there's the whole, you don't want to invest too much money in your running backs. I just think you're doing a disservice to this offense because it feels different when Pollard is in there. That average of 5 yards a carry he had this past season, I think it was like 5.2 was the exact number. He just runs the ball so hard, and I feel like he's constantly making plays. He's a threat in the receiving game as well. You can't just let him go. It would be... honestly, if it was up to me, I would keep Pollard over Zeke. If you're really trying to decide between one or the other, like I understand you have a lot of money committed to Zeke, but Pollard is the guy. I've believed that now for the last couple of years, and it just feels like he's only getting better and better and better, and it's like compounding the situation. So you've got to bring Tony Pollard back, in my opinion. He's young, he's playing really well, he's got the hot hand in that running back room. Stick with him, keep him around, and he should be your guy for the long run. As for somebody that I would like to see the Dallas Cowboys picking up in this year's free agency period, like I said, you're going to have to restructure some money, and it's going to have to be moved around so you can get yourself under the cap and make some room for some other players. I think the linebacking room could use a little bit of work here. Anthony Barr is somebody that I think is probably going to be gone. I don't really think you should be looking to bring him back unless it's on a really, really cheap deal, and you already had him for like a $2 million, I think $2 million what he made last year. So unless you're bringing him back for like the vet minimum or something like that or close to it, I just feel like with the way his production has kind of fallen off, I don't really think he's that important to your defense that you should be keeping him around. And I love Leighton Vander Esch. I really hope that they find some sort of way to bring him back. I think he had a really good year this year. I'm glad to see that he was finally healthy. He was somebody that I've always been a really big fan of. I just wish that he could have stayed healthier over the duration of his career so far up to this point. But he had a really good season last year. So let's talk about beefing up some of the guys surrounding him. And somebody that I have on my radar, and this feels like a very much a if he ends up being available, because I could see him end up being re-signed by his team. I'm looking at linebacker Landon Roberts. Big guy. He can be a thumper if you need him to, but he's also pretty solid in the pass coverage as well. There's definitely a good possibility that the Dolphins do what they can to bring this guy back. But if he ends up being available, because he is marked as a potential free agent right now, this is someone that you're grabbing that's a little bit younger than Anthony Barr, but is producing on a much higher level. When you look at the numbers and just the amount of games he got to play, all 17 games. On top of that, you're looking at 107 tackles, 10 tackles for loss. He had 4.5 sacks this past year. And Spotrac has him projected for a really low contract, which is pretty interesting to me. And I think it has to do with just where he is age-wise. I believe he's turning 29 fairly soon. So again, he's on the older side, but he is a couple years behind Anthony Barr. I just think with the production and Spotrac projecting him for a 1-year, $2.4 million deal, I do think that's a little bit low. I could see him grabbing something along the lines of maybe like a 2 or 3 year deal, somewhere along the like high range of like $3 to $5 million at least per year. But even if you're not in that range and you're able to get him closer to that 2.4 number or somewhere within that ballpark, this is someone that you're bringing in who will play. And again, you're beefing up the surrounding talent around Anthony Barr, who is somebody that I really want the Cowboys to bring back as well. If I wasn't able to choose Tony Pollard for my re-sign, Leighton Vander Esch would be the other guy that I really want to see Dallas bring back. And we're trying to beef up the linebacking room around him. So Landon Roberts, awesome, athletic guy. Again, plays solid in coverage. He can be a thumper as well. Pretty big dude. I believe he's 6'3", 240 along those lines, 238, something like that. I forgot to write his height and weight down. But again, bigger guy, so he can do a little bit of both if you need him, helping stuffing the run. And that was another thing that the Cowboys definitely could use some work in from the linebacking core. So you want some guys that are bigger that can handle that run up front as well. I just think it makes a lot of sense. Again, if he ends up being available, this one is kind of one of the stretch ones that I feel like one of the more like stretchy kind of guys that I've thrown out there for a team just because I'm not 100% sold on him being available. But if he is, bring him in, Dallas. But that's how I look at the Dallas Cowboys free agency. I would love to hear what you all think in the comment section down below. Again, somebody you want to see him let go, someone you want to see him re-sign, maybe somebody you want him to go pick up. Let me know, my Cowboys fans. I'd love to hear from you all. But that is it for me. I'll catch you all in the next video. Have a good one.